So my name is Olga Walsh and I sit on the board of Tech Industry Alliance, and I'm here today with Mary O'Donoghue, who also sits on the board, and we're just going to talk about her career and ask a couple of questions around that. So Mary, do you want to go ahead and briefly introduce yourself?
So my name's Mary O'Donoghue. I'm on the board with Olga and I joined about 2 years ago. I work as a senior manager in tech support in Park Place Technologies in Blarney Business Park.
Brilliant. And Mary, so for you to end up where you are today, what did you do initially? Like, what did you study in college?
I did computer science. I did a certificate first, and then I went on and did the diploma, the Erasmus program. And then I left after that. I didn't go on and do my degree.
Okay.
But I did it in RTC at the time now.
Yeah.
MTU. Yeah.
And was there a reason, like, why you did computer science? Were you always interested in maths or engineering?
Yeah, I suppose I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school, and I had two sisters ahead of me. One was doing computer science, the degree, and one was doing electronics.
Yeah.
Couldn't do physics, so I figured I'd follow into the computer science. And because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, I went in through the certificate path. Okay. So it was level 6.
Yeah.
So that I had 2 years committed to. There was paths forward if I wanted to continue, and that really was it. I was good at maths. I didn't do writing essays really well, so I figured something in the logical side would be good for me.
Yeah. So you got the right path. So then, when you finished your certificate, you went on and did the diploma. So was that a year longer? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the first time MTU RTC at the time did the Erasmus program. So I did 10 weeks over in Huddersfield in the UK.
Wow.
I did 10 weeks back here in Cork, and I did 10 weeks in Lannion in France.
Cool.
So at the time, it's funny, it was my first time ever getting on an airplane the day we left for London, because we had never really didn't travel back then, you know.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting, but it was a fantastic program. Yeah. Because it opened my eyes to...
That was brave, now heading off, studying abroad and everything.
Yeah, my French teacher thought the same, because I don't pass French for the leaving cert.
So then, once you finished your diploma, did you think, okay, at that point, did you feel to get a job, you had to do the degree, or, you know, what was your kind of next steps?
No, at the time, I wasn't going to go on and do the degree. I had done what I thought I had achieved a huge amount by doing 3 years of college. Yeah. It was never on my radar, but I loved programming. I loved the logical, I loved the problem solving part of it. So that's why at that point there was very few jobs out there. I then went in and did a FOSS course. Okay. So at the time there was a FOSS course that you did because jobs were so few, and it just brought us into, I suppose, more the industry, because people came to FOSS at that time looking for employees. They come to universities now. They came to FOSS at that time looking for employees. Great. And I think it was 3 or 4 of us that did that Erasmus program, went on to FOSS afterwards.
Brilliant, we
kind of followed each other around for a while. You know?
So you didn't lose out then in, you know, and I think that was one of the topics we covered, yourself and myself, and that you don't have to follow the normal path of doing a degree and getting into an area that you feel that you'd like to work in, that there is other ways around it.
Oh, there's so many paths. I mean, you know, like you look at St. John's and college and whichever now, you can, if you don't get the points in the leaving cert, you can go in there and then go into computer science in PU after the second year if you achieve your results the first year. So there are so many paths through the College of Commerce and whichever to get in there. If the leaving cert is not going to be your path, there's so many ways in. If you have an interest in what you want to do, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Totally.
Just to find it.
Agree. Yeah, totally agree. And then, was there any kind of big challenges you faced? Like, now that you're working in engineering, is there any major challenges that you kind of come across that maybe when you were studying helped you, or anything there that you...
Like, I'm out with 30 years.
Yeah.
There was no internet. There was nothing when I went there. We programmed in C++ and COBOL.
Yeah.
So everything was done on paper. We wrote our code out on a foolscap page and went into college the following morning and typed it in.
Yeah.
So coming out and like over the last 30, when you look at how the tech industry has evolved, you have to keep learning, you know?
Yeah.
But I suppose that is the positive and the negative of it. You have to be willing to keep learning, because every year something new comes out. I mean, if you told me 30 years ago about AI and all of that, I would, if you probably told me about the internet back then as to what it would be and all the social media now, we just wouldn't have known. There was no such thing as Googling a result. You went into the library and you pulled out the books and you did your research, and that's the way we did it, you know.
And I think that is important, though, for any career, isn't it? You just keep being curious, I suppose, and keep trying to learn, and keep on top of it that way then. So back to, I suppose, your role today and staying relevant. Is there any kind of specific training you take or anything that you try and upskill or keep up to date?
I suppose when I came out as a software developer in theory, right? But I found the computer and myself a lonely existence, even though I could do it well. So that's why I went into customer service, and I started in customer service in EMC as a level 1 support engineer. And then to do that, you have to learn the products of the company. You have to, and each time you have to keep learning. When a new product comes out, you have to take training and you have to understand it. To be able to talk to customers, you have to understand. And the same goes on. I look at what the industry is doing. Tech Industry Alliances, that's how I got involved in it. It was going to events to try and learn more about the latest technology, because that's what the events do. They introduce, and they're helping people to come along that journey with people who are probably further along the journey. And you have the Tech Brew, you have all of these events that are going on. We're looking in Cork, there's a huge amount of events going on. And it is to keep up with them, keep up with the blogs, and do, as you hear something coming out, do a bit of research on it. It's not to be an expert in it, it's to know the concept, so that as it crosses your path, that you have the concept and then you know how deep you need to go into it. You know,
which is good,
so it keeps advancing, and
then you don't feel then that you, and I'd be similar, like you don't feel you have to focus so constantly on doing more official training. It's about just educating yourself and attending events and keeping up to date. I
learn by doing. So I can go to college and I can rogue learn, but I have to get my fingers on it. I have to do it to retain it in my brain. So everyone has different ways of studying. To me, it's do it, and I will struggle through it. But once I've it done once, I won't forget it. And that's how I learn. I'm not good in an exam situation. I'm good at let the problem with me and I'll figure it out.
Brilliant. So some of your work that you've done so far, anything that's kind of contributed to real world problems? Because when we work in tech and IT, you always feel a little bit kind of removed, I think, sometimes from real world stuff. And
I think when you're in customer service, you kind of, you are slightly closer to that real world. But I suppose one of the things that sticks out to me is the day of 9/11. Such an unfortunate thing, and I can still place myself where I was in the customer service lab in EMC on the day when someone said there's a plane gone in. But we went into react mode because EMC had most of the Fortune 500 at that point, and we knew a huge amount of our equipment was inside in the towers. So from a customer service perspective, we went into react mode to make sure that our field people there were safe, but also we had disaster recovery. So we started failing over, and that's what we spent the next week doing, was getting most of the customers back up, and the sense of satisfaction to know that in pure chaos we were able to do something. And you know, there's a lot of scenarios in that, when airlines go down, when various different things go down. In my previous role of cybersecurity, you got involved in some of the worst situations, but when you see what you're giving back to a company who put their faith in you, and people whose internet is down or whichever, and you're giving something back. That's why I love customer service. I still get the same thrill out of customer service today as I did 30 years ago. I do. I just solving one small problem.
I know, making life easier for someone.
It's just, there's a great satisfaction to it. There's a great satisfaction to having a customer who is not happy and turning that situation around into a good situation. Hard day, but at the end of the day, it's so worth it.
Sense of achievement is great.
And same with coding. Like I do a lot of automations and whichever I try to. But when you have a problem that takes you 3-4 hours today, and you can turn it around into a 30-minute job, it gives you the ability to put more into your day. And it's not to work, someone used to always say, work smarter, not harder. Yeah. But it gives me the time then to do the research that I want to do, because I'm not spending 3 hours repeating the same thing every
task every time. So you left EMC, and where did you go next?
After EMC, I went to Trend Micro, cybersecurity company. Huge change for me, because cybersecurity didn't even come into the picture when I was in college, and for most of my EMC worlds, to be honest, Virtue Stream. And so it was a huge learning curve for me, the 0-day initiatives and everything. It was fabulous, but it probably made me very, very aware of what I was Googling, what links I was clicking on. And to be honest, for a while it made me very paranoid. And, we have to be so careful. Yeah. I mean, how people catch us out these days is unbelievable. But it was a great learning for me. It was a fantastic experience, absolutely fantastic experience. And that's where I joined the board of Tech Industry Alliances and got involved in a number of their events. Yeah. So it's a good learning curve. Yeah.
To keep moving.
Yeah, keep moving. Yeah.
So what would you say about why students should consider a career in engineering or in tech? Well, why would you think it's a good area to get into?
There's tech in everything.
Yeah,
you know, so no matter what you do, whether it's in the plumbing stage or every phase of life is engineering. Yeah. It just depends on what you want to get into. Yeah. So like you talk about, you have the electronic engineering, the electrical engineering, you have computer science, you have IT management. There's all of them. It just depends on what area you're interested in, So to me, everybody needs to know part of it. Yeah. There's modules in every course that tie back to engineering now, whether you're doing accountancy or whichever. But if you want to do programming, you go into computer science. If you want to be stuck in parts and stuff like that, and you're going into electronics. Yeah. But it depends on your curiosity. I mean, for me, my engineering is, I love problem solving. I love finding something that's really complex and figuring it out. Yeah. And tech allows you to do that. Yeah. It gives you the tools to do it. And it's up to yourself to do it. Yeah.
And there's great opportunities, like, as you said, you came out of college as a software engineer, but you're working in customer support, whereas I was similar. I came out as a software engineer, figured out pretty quick that I wasn't the best at coding, and went into more of the analyst and the functional side of it. So there's so many opportunities that you can start off and then find the next route that you want to go to, and you can diversify that way. Yeah.
And like there's, you have BIS, so you can come out and go into the business side of technology, and it opens every door for you, really.
Yeah, no, it does. So you spoke about automation and how enriching that is. For you working on automation today now, how did you train yourself in that? Just playing?
I suppose my automation really comes down to operational stuff, metrics and numbers and whichever. And it is through training, through figuring out that I'm doing the same thing the whole time. There has to be an easier way of doing this. I get bored easily. I think that's part of our mindset as well. We get bored easily. So I don't want to do the same thing every time. So I would Google to see, we'll say in an Excel spreadsheet, in a database, how can I get this to populate itself? How can I get this to do it in one? So I got into Excel macros and whichever.
Brilliant.
Now with AI, Excel macros are so much easier.
Yeah.
But it does turn hours of work into literally a click of a
Seconds.
button, But you have to know to do that. AI is no good if you don't know what you're asking it. So I have to know exactly what I want to get from it. Yeah. So my inputs, you have your input, you're processing your output. Yeah. Your inputs are so important to be able to get your outputs.
But you need to know then that you need to know, as you said, what you want in the outputs. So you're not just trusting what it's giving you. You need to be able to proofread it.
Well, and you have to be able to validate it and whichever. Yeah,
brilliant. So then skills, what do you think, we've talked a lot there about, like we said, maths, problem solving, but as you keep progressing then in your career, what kind of skills do you think are important for people?
You have to be adaptable to change.
Yeah.
You have to have, I suppose, the ability to take a risk, because when you're going into the unknown, you're always taking a risk. But from my perspective, it's always worth it, And as an old boss, you say, if you're going to fail fast.
Yeah.
And every day or every year, you're going to have failures. Mm-hmm. It's the willingness to accept those failures and move on, because everybody's human. If we weren't, it would all be computerized. So it is the willingness to adapt to that, and then to continue learning. Yeah. You have to have a curious brain, a logical brain for part. But now technology has gone into, all of the marketing and everything. So in the arts, into movies, into animation. Yeah. So there's also the very creative side of technology now. Yeah. So
it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. I don't have that creativity side of me, which is why I'm where I'm doing customer service, and Park Places, it's equipment, it's so I can touch it, I can see it, whereas I'd love to be a visionary, but it's not me.
I know. So any educational paths or extracurricular stuff you do outside of Tech Industry Alliance, but is there anything else that you do that you kind of gain more tech knowledge and then get rewards back from it as well?
But the Tech Industry Alliance events are great. The Tech Brew events are very good. Yeah. But there's so much out there, like the Vex Robotics that Dell does, and a lot of people do it. I saw it through my kids because they did it in school, and the fascination, the interest the kids have in it, but it gets them interested in stuff. Coder Dojo. Yeah. Coder Dojo is fantastic for them. But also, I do age action. So I did it. I'm not doing it at the moment, where for older people could come in and to my previous 2 companies, and we taught them the very basics of using a computer, and it was looking up RTE, looking up, looking up the papers, just very simple things, but that they wouldn't have the knowledge to do. And while you're doing that, you learn a huge amount yourself, because they're asking questions that you hadn't really thought about. And then the 4th year, transitionary experience, when you're sitting talking to them and explaining what you do and why, it makes you think about why you do it. If we get up every day and we come in and we do our job, sometimes we forget to think of what it gives us. And when you're explaining it to someone else, you remember what it gives you back, not just what you do every day.
Exactly. And is there, do you get any kind of other good ideas from that? Like from when you're the age action, what I like about the age action is that age group have the interest, to come in and be brave, to come in and come into a company, say, like here in Dell. It must be daunting, but did you get any kind of good ideas out of that you said, God, we should really look at that now for
And it is really about opening it further, right? So it is groups coming in here, but I think it's getting out into the community.
Great.
So I love helping people around, and I would, go into the schools and talk to the younger people. One of the things that I had done at one stage was talking to a group of transition year students and college students about the internet, about social media, and Snapchat now. They go up, but it's deleted. Nothing is deleted, and I think that's where going back into the teaching kids the reality that was no reality for us, because if we didn't meet when we were younger, we just didn't meet.
Exactly.
And that's what I think needs to go back more, is that technology is great. I think to teach kids that there's far more ways of communicating other than technology.
And the awareness then of what they're doing.
The benefits of it, and
the pros and cons to everything. So any advice you would give any of the young female or male students now that are considering getting into engineering or already in engineering in that field, like any advice you'd actually give them?
I think follow your passion. So you can do your course, and there'll be little nuggets or little modules in your course that you love, and there'll be modules that you just about pass at the end of it, and they are fine. But they are part of the path that you need to get to. But hook on to those ones, because when you go out to work every day, you have to love what you do. There's no point in going into it or sticking with it just because you did the course and you should. You have to love what you're doing, and technology is so broad that if one area of it doesn't suit you, like for me, computer programming, it just wasn't for me. I started, but it wasn't for me. Customer service I loved, and I remember a time a boss said, but you're giving up training. But I didn't. It wasn't giving up. My gut said it was the right thing for me, and it was, and when I finished up in Dell, I went to a career coach, because I said, I need to change.
What am I going to do now?
But everything came back to getting back into a services one, and I said, if I'm getting back into services, why would I not get into the services area that I know? So follow your passion. There's thousands of paths. Just find your way, and don't just say, well, I can't, because where there is a will, there is a way. You just have to be adaptable to it.
Exactly. And what about that then, though, like challenges that you've faced over the years in your career? How have you navigated them, and what kind of skills did you use, or what helped you get through the challenges?
I would probably be one of my own toughest critics, right? So if I made a mistake, I battered myself for it rather than anybody else. So an imposter syndrome would come in, and I'm not good enough to do it. And it is really having the people around you that are advocates for you and that can see that and work with you. And I have got a mentor at various different times just to really calibrate where I'm at and where I should go, and what are my gaps, because we all have gaps, we all have blind sides. And that's where a mentor and your advocates will really help you to see those blind sides and do something about them. Because they may be the thing, very, very small thing that may be stopping you doing
holding
something.
You back.
But I grew my career while rearing a family. And at times you're going, oh God, I'm out again for another 6 months, or I'm out for 9 months. Will that impact me? But it only impacts you if you let it impact you. If you keep your confidence and do your job. Like if you do your job right, and if you do it well, that'll stand to you irrespective.
Brilliant. And the mentoring then, and I'm thinking about, say, the students that, that are thinking about engineering, it's probably them trusting, as you said, someone that's an advocate for them, going to, one of the courses I give is on knowing yourself, I suppose, and your skills. So it's nearly going out to your colleagues, your best friends, and asking them what are your biases and what are the things that you might have those blindnesses about your own personality. So maybe that's a tip for students, is that go talk to your friends. Now, your good friends that aren't going to slate you, but it'll help you recognise that okay, you need to work on that a little bit now, and it'll help you move forward.
Yeah, and it's also to look at your career guidance teacher, right? So, but also, I mean, the career guidance teachers now, they bring a lot of people in from industry. We would go into schools and use that opportunity to ask questions. I mean, when we go into school, I've gone into transition years, I want them to ask all the questions. I don't want them to sit there silent. I want them to... So ask those questions and find out why, so that you can think it through. And when we go out to the schools, we don't go out because we're forced to do so. We have a passion for what we do. So when we go into the schools, we want to share that passion. We want them to leave with the passion we have. So ask the questions. Find someone who's in the industry. I mean, I often have parents ring me up and say, Mary, could you talk to Johnny? And I go, no bother, because that's the only way you know what you're going into.
Exactly.
If you've nobody in your family in that industry, it's hard to get the information.
It is, and it's daunting. So then, any final comments? Well, first, actually, before we finish up, you moved from EMC to Trend Micro, and recently then you went to Park Place Technologies. Yes. So the role you're doing there, similar to what you did in Trend, is that right? Or slightly different?
I suppose it's a tech support role. Okay. So, they're still the same.
Yeah.
It's in concept, but we'll say how it's done is completely different, because Trend Micro was cybersecurity.
Yeah.
This is third-party maintenance, managed service, and whichever. So it is very different. The bottom of it is very different. The concept of leadership and whichever, they're the same irrespective where you go. So our processor procedures, our automations, everything will be different. So I have to learn all of that
again now.
So I am relearning. I went in the first day, and I mean, the tools are different. Their systems for logging tickets and everything, they're all different. So I'm now in that excited learning mode again.
Which is nice.
And I will be, I start looking at what are the optimizations I can do here. How can we make it more streamlined? But that's what I love.
You love that,
going into the unknown and figuring it out. Because I know, give me time, I'll figure it out. It's daunting for the first few weeks. I'm still in the daunted phase. But I know I'm getting there now.
You know you'll get there, so that's the thing.
I do. I know I'll get there.
So any final kind of tips or comments or advice to give any of students that are considering engineering or are in it and kind of struggling even, thinking, God, if I picked the right choice here?
I suppose if you're in it and you think you've picked the wrong choice, go find someone who's in that industry. Go find someone who has qualified in the last couple of years, or even talk to your head lecturer. Because I'll guarantee you, if you look at the class of 2023, they're all in different industries. Some of them are in pharma, some are in, so it'll give you an insight into what the opportunities are for you. It's not just one path. I mean, there's so many ways out of it. And then if you're in secondary school and you're worried about the points, don't worry about the points. Do your study and whichever, and do what you can. There's so many paths. Look at if going directly into university is not an option for you for various different reasons. It may not be points, it may be finances, it may be family, it may be anything. Look at the other opportunities that are there. You have in Cork the College of Commerce, but in all cities around you have those entry level courses, and sometimes they give you a great grounding for getting to university, and they'll give you an insight for if you're unsure. They're a fabulous place to go to, because it gives you a year where you actually do get a certificate in whichever out of them. but it gives you an insight as to whether this is what you want to do or not.
Yeah, you'll know whether you like it.
Yeah. And I know a few people who have gone through it and gone on and done their degrees.
Yeah.
You know, and I've known some that went in there and changed halfway through.
Yeah.
But because they were on that bridging, they went, when the CEO came out next year, they knew exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
You know, so it is. I would say, don't go into a course just because you feel you have to put something on CEO for. Yeah. Have a reason why it's on there.
Yeah.
If you're really unsure, either go into one of those bridging courses, so that if you feel a gap year, I'll never go back, go into one of those courses and they'll give you an insight. But do what you love.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point in, you know, I say it to my own kids, you know, that you have 40 years of work.
Yeah, exactly.
You have 40 years in the working life. Yeah. So you might as well be doing something you love.
You should be enjoying it.
Yeah, and you should be enjoying it. You should want to go into work in the morning. Yeah. And there's always going to be bad days. And there's always going to be frustrating periods, not just days. But they are the ones that make the good days even better.
Exactly.
Because you cherish them a lot more.
Yeah, and back to the sense of achievement you said there that you get when you figure something out that's been difficult. Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, Mary, thank you so much. It was lovely to chat today. Yeah. And hopefully it's useful information to everybody watching.
Yeah. And if there are questions from anybody, you know, just, you know, find someone who'll ask, and they could find us.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks a million. Take care.
Thank you.